Welcome to RickRackRuby. I'm Laura Cluvo. Today we will make this boy elf ornament. His name is Elmer, and he's a companion to Elsie, who we made a couple of weeks ago. He's fun and easy, so let's get started. To make our elf boy ornament, we'll need an elf boy face. This is made a lot like the girl face, except instead of a little heart mouth, he has a drawn-on smile. It's drawn on with a marker, and no eyelashes. He just has very expressive eyebrows. Otherwise, his face is made the same with wood-burned eyes and rosy cheeks. He's just a little bit more boyish. One red and white striped chenille stem, then a half of a second one. There's a little teeny weeny red pom-pom, some green paddle wire, and some Christmas light shaped buttons. This is for the elf to hold. He's going to hold a string of lights, and you could use something else if you wanted. The trusty red and white baker's twine. This is kind of like a pipe cleaner, but it's actually called Chenille Bumps. This is white Chenille Bumps. You can get them at the craft store. Here's a standard sized piece of aqua felt, and I have 3 patterns. I'll show you how to draw the patterns at the end. This is a hat, this is the tunic, and this is the shoe. We need 1 hat, 1 tunic, and 4 shoes, but I'm gonna do the shoes a little bit later. I have a pro tip for the shoes. So let's get started. We're gonna cut out 1 hat and 1 tunic and get started. I like to put the hats in the corner so that we can take advantage of those nice straight corners. And in the same way, I like to put the tunic along an edge like that to take advantage of that straight edge. I want to put them too close together. Cut those out. I'll be right back. There we go. Here's the tunic. Here's the hat. I have my machine threaded with this aqua color of thread. So I'm going to fold this and stitch up the back with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. And then I'm also going to fold this tunic and stitch up the straight sides. I want to leave this open, just the straight sides here and here. Let's start with the hat. I'm going to trim off the point, trim off the bottom, and then trim the seam. This little pom-pom is going to go on top. So we'll turn it right side out, and then I'm going to sew on the pom-pom. This is just a double strand of sewing thread. I didn't have any quilting thread this color. Through that little pom-pom, right through the center. And then with my baker's twine, starting at the back, right here beside the seam allowance, I'm going to do a little running stitch to gather up the edge of the hat. I'll leave a nice generous tail about 1 foot. Don't pull it too tight, it'll come all the way through. Easy. And again, I like to leave a nice generous set of tails. We also need this hanging loop. Now for the tunic, I will trim the sides. And then turn it right side out. I backstitched at the start of each seam because now I'm going to cut a little zigzaggy hem here. right in the center top, I'm going to poke a little hole. It doesn't have to be big enough for the head. It only has to be big enough for a pipe cleaner. Before we go on, I want to make a little belt. I'm going to stitch a little belt here. I'm going to start slightly off center in the front, and again, just do a running stitch. Again, I'll leave nice long tails. We need one chenille bump. So I'm going to cut this right in the middle. This is for his beard. Just as a wonderful coincidental twist of fate, I have discovered that this is the exact correct length for a beard on a 20mm bead. I'm kind of folding the ends in. Those ends are going to go right into the top hole right here, but we're not doing that yet. Okay, so I have my hat, my tunic. This is for the arms. This is for the body. I'm going to fold this body pipe cleaner in half. I'm going to put a little twist in the top to form the neck. That neck is going to go right into the bead in a minute. Then, this is the arm. I'm folding this in half. This is half of a pipe cleaner. I think they're 12 inches long, so that makes this 6 inches, like that. And then we'll give that a little twist to secure the arms. Now, don't put the head on yet. You know when you get your kids dressed, they have their arms kind of up like that? I have 5 kids. So that's kind of how we start to put the tunic on. Put the arms through the little sleeves. 1, 2, and then the neck, it only needs to come out about 1/4 of an inch. Like this. This will be the front. His bow will be right here in the belt. Starting to look like an elf already, right? Now we're going to glue his head on. I like to put the glue right on the end here of the neck. Slide it on until it meets the collar of the tunic. It's looking very good. I'm going to tie off the tunic just so these strings are not in our way. Just tie a nice little bow. There we go. Adorable. Now the little beard. I'm going to put a little glue right actually on the hole, and then just fit the ends of that pipe cleaner chenille bump like this. Maybe I'll put a little glue on the chin too. Now, aren't you glad we already prepared this hat? Because all we have to do is put it on. Instead of putting the hat on like this, straight up and down, give it a little bit of a tip so that the back is angled a little bit like that. So not like this, not like this, but more like this. And then just pull these ends to tighten it up. Tie a knot. I need a little bit of an adjustment so I can see his eyebrows. There we go. Cute. Okay, I like that. So I'm going to add some glue. Great. Tie a bow in the back. Smudge of glue to hold that bow. And then a little overhand knot in each end. Now, you know how I promised you a pro tip? The pro tip is all about the boots. If you like, instead of tracing the boot pattern on a piece of paper and pinning it, you can trace it onto this Avery 8165. It can be anything. You can even use a name tag or an address label or whatever, but onto a sticker. Okay, so you trace it on. You got the idea, right? And then cut it out exactly on the line and peel off the paper backing. There we go. I have it cut out right on the line. You all saw that, right? Avery 8165. Then just peel off the backing and place it on the felt. Leave yourself a nice margin. And we still need pins, not to pin the pattern, but to pin 2 layers together. So you can see here, I have my pattern stuck to the felt, 2 layers of felt. I will use pins just to hold the felt together. Now, on my trusty sewing machine, I'm going to remove my all-purpose foot and switch to an open-toed foot. I'm sure your machine has one of these. They were used for satin stitch, or I'm not sure what all. For my machine, it's the number 20 on my Bernina. That way I can see what I'm doing. Starting at the top, either side, but I start on the outside, I'm going to sew very closely along the edge of the boot. Don't try to sew these. We need to leave these open. The little zigzaggy part, just leave that open. So we're going to stitch down and around and up and back stitch. Do not stitch through the paper, stitch next to the paper. And with your open-toed foot, you can see where you're going, and also set your machine to stop with the needle down. So when you go around these, you can pivot without having to take an extra stitch. You know what I mean. Here we go. I've stitched right next to the pattern. I'm going to cut it out, but I want to show you. I'm going to cut out straight across, and I've back stitched at the beginning and the end. And then just a little, small little allowance there. I'm leaving the pattern on as I cut so I can have something. I still have that as a guide to cut the little zigzags. And again, I'm not cutting all the way to the paper. I'm leaving the smallest little allowance so that it looks like this. By using the sticker paper, you don't have to worry about the pins distorting or moving. It just sticks right there and you can sew everything perfectly. This also comes in handy for, you know, anything where you have small little pieces. You can just use stickers. Also, these are reusable. They'll still stick. I can make a couple more if I want to. So the shoes, the little boots, will go on the ends of the legs. Just try them on first. They're way big, of course. They go in very easily. And you know, I like to kind of bend the knees a little bit to give him some personality. So what I'll do is just add a tiny bit of glue. It doesn't take a lot of glue to hold it. Don't use too much because you don't want the glue to show. I didn't put a big glob of glue. I just kind of smudged the end of the pipe cleaner. Great. Look what we have. He's looking so cute. Now, it would be easy to make a little wreath. I found this when I was making the feather fairies. It was in with the feather fairies, but this is just an easy way to make a wreath. This is holiday time tinsel garland. I think this is from Target. And you could just put this in his hands and that would be great. But since the girl elf, who I've decided to name Elsie, and I've decided this is Elmer, she's holding a wreath. So I thought we would be a little bit more imaginative He's going to be holding a string of lights. We'll do red, blue, and green. So this will be the wire. Cut off a nice long piece. You can always trim it. This is green paddle wire. I'll fold that in half. I'm going to put the red one right in the middle. And then a little twist. And then maybe a little loop. And here I made a loop there. And then I think that's too far apart. Let's move that in closer. Okay. Oh, I can tell I'm ruining my manicure, but it's worth it for such a cute project. Then here's another little loop. We'll thread the blue one on this end. And twist. So I have a green wire and 3 little bulbs for Elmer to hold. So we'll bend back his wrist and loop that around. I kind of looped it through and twisted it. Then we'll bend back this one, wrap it around. Then I don't want his hands to be so low. I want him to be holding them out, more out and not so much down. It's a little 3-dimensional. And then we'll bend his little legs. Oh, his boots are so big. But he's very cute. Okay, his hat needs a little decoration. Let's put one of these little Paper Studio snowflakes on the hat. There we go. I did not forget about the patterns. To make the patterns for the Elf Boy, just get some 4 square graph paper, 4 squares to the inch graph paper. The hat is easy. Just take a compass, open it up to 2.5, and draw a quarter circle right on the corner of your paper. And cut that out. And there's your hat. For the tunic, this is 5 inches long, 2 inches wide. Fold it in half both ways. Here's the folded corner, and this is the open side with the folds. 3 squares down the sides, the open sides, and 1.5 squares in. Just make a little mark. So starting at the fold, cut down and around. Cut out that little section, and there's your tunic. Easy. Fold it in half and stitch up the sides. Now the shoe, the boot, is a little more tricky. This is 6 squares, so 1.5 inches in each direction. Come in 1 square right here. This section from here, 1, 2, 3, to here is kind of like the main part of the boot. This part up here is where the zigzaggy part is, the top. So that's only 1/4 inch. Then this comes around all the way to the bottom, all the way almost to the very, very bottom edge. And then this comes down 3 squares and a little more. Then it angles back out. This is not sharp enough, I can tell, but that's the idea. There we go. Not bad. You can do this. Anyway, then just kind of straighten out your lines. Cut it out. And you can, of course, make adjustments as you cut. Like it'll be more rounded. And you can compensate as you cut. I think I'm going to have this, yeah, go like this, and this will be a little more rounded. I know I keep trimming it, but just finessing it a little bit. There's the boot, there's the tunic, there's the hat. You can do this. You've got this. You can do it. Thank you for watching my tutorial. If you're enjoying my videos, please like, share, and subscribe.